It's K-Poi 105.9 The Big Kahuna, Honolulu's only classic rock, the Workforce Afternoon. Dave Lawrence with you, and a big mahalo for being on board. Today we are lucky enough to have a very special guest to talk about his band's new cover of the Beatles' classic I Am the Walrus, and everything else related to the legendary band Styx. It's my great pleasure to introduce this amazingly talented guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter, Tommy Shaw. Aloha, Tommy.
Aloha, Dave.
Thank you so much for being my guest. I appreciate it, man.
Man, I wish I was there.
Well, I wish you were here, too.
I'm in Southern California, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, well, it's always one of, if I can't be here, that's always a place I enjoy being, in lieu of Hawaii. So you guys originally covered I Am the Walrus for Eric Clapton's Crossroads Guitar Fest. Is that where the genesis of this?
Yeah, this was one of those years where one thing led to another and kept on leading to another. We had started work with this blues project in Chicago at 2120 South Michigan. That led us to the Clapton, the Crossroads Festival in Dallas. But the problem was we had just played Dallas a couple of weeks before that, and we wanted to do something different than just going and playing the same stuff in front of a lot of the same people. So we decided to do some cover songs and some of our favorite artists like B.B. King, and we did. What did we do? We did Crossroads, I believe. We did. We did Manic Depression by Jimi Hendrix, and Lawrence sang "I Am the Walrus." I did "Thrill Is Gone" by B.B. King. We just had a great time doing that, and they recorded it live. And we got such a good response from it. A friend in Chicago at the Loop said, "Give me a copy of it, and I'll play it on the air." And we never could hook up with the right people to get that version of it, so we re-recorded it ourselves up in Oregon in September. And we just gave out a couple of copies like that. And it reminds me of when Lady became a hit back in the 70s. One station in Chicago just decided to start playing it. And other people heard it, and it just sort of broke on its own.
And that's basically the deal with this too. That's it's eerie and ironic how that's the case, because I heard about it from a buddy as well, saying, "Hey, check this out. You'll really dig it." And then when I got to see that the origins of it, and that you in fact debuted it for the band's first time covering it at the Crossroads thing, I thought, wow, it has a great lineage based around it. How far back with Eric Clapton do you guys go? I mean, how did you get the invite? I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, damn, how did they get hooked up with that?
It was, friends. Actually, it was our production manager got called in to produce one of the days there, one of the stages.
Okay.
And he said, "I'll do it, but you got to bring my boys with you." And they said they didn't realize that we would even be interested in it. You know how that is?
Yeah.
You mean they'll play it? And we're like, yeah, whatever you need to do. We just wanted to go down there anyway, and so it was one of those great kind of maybe once in a lifetime things where if you didn't play at it, you should have gone to it anyway.
Yeah, I mean the lineup at that thing is sick. Like you just said, Tom, I'm sure as a fan that you would have wanted to just be there to watch it, let alone to get to do that plus be a part of it.
The lineup and all the stuff.
Yeah.
NAMM. You know what NAMM is, right?
Yeah, the convention.
The music. It's all the music manufacturers in the country get together in Anaheim once a year, and you go down there and you see everybody and there's all kinds of instruments, but this was just guitars. So all the big guitar dealers were there. So it was just insane. You couldn't get out of there without taking something home.
Did you buy stuff while you were there?
Yeah, I bought a Les Paul, and I wound up getting it. And I bought it from Norm's Rare Guitars. I mean, we might be boring everybody, but if you're a guitar player, you know about Norm's Rare Guitars, and he was the original guy who started collecting and trading classic guitars. And he was there, but his store is out in Tarzana here, about 15 minutes from my house. I had to go to Dallas to go.
That's funny. And was it did you get any FaceTime with Eric at this thing? Did you run into him? Or?
No, I went over and because Sam Moore and and some other people were in our dressing room. I went over and when I left, Clapton showed up right after I left.
Have you met him before, Tommy?
I met him when I lived in New York back in the 80s.
Okay.
I used to frequent a lot of the same places, and I'd run into him a lot there, but I hadn't seen him since then.
It's really cool. I mean, that really connects the I Am the Walrus song to a great event. And when I saw that, I was just curious. I was like, damn, man, how Styx must have dug being on that bill, being asked to be part of that.
It was so much fun. Just because we ran into all these great blues people that were down there, and we played this one thing just kind of at the spur of the moment. It was a reception for everybody who was showing up there. It was because I play Taylor guitars, and Taylor was having a little party over at this really neat hall that was there, and so all the Taylor guys are going over there and playing. So we went over and played a little acoustic set.
Nice.
That Thursday night, I think it was. And so all these great blues guys were in there, and they were watching us play.
That's an honor, like BB and stuff, kind of.
Lockwood Jr., that the elder statesman.
Damn.
Yeah. And so
what a rush!
It was just amazing. Now the more I think about it, it's all coming back to me how exciting it was, because we were buzzing about that for a month afterwards.
That is so cool. And you had done another blues thing earlier in the summer. What was the thing that I read about that you did at like Chess or something? You guys?
Yeah, J.Y., who lives in Chicago, he's driven by. It's kind of on his way from where he lives to downtown. He drives by that all the time. And just one day he decided, I'm going to go in there. And it turns out that the Chess Studios at 2120 South Michigan had become the home of the Willie Dixon Blues Heaven Foundation. And it wasn't a recording studio anymore, but the Blues Heaven Foundation had put money into it and had rehabbed the building and had a little outside garden next door to it. And so it turns out Willie Dixon's wife was in there, and his son, and he started talking to him, and one thing led to another, and it's like, well, what if we came in and recorded something here? Because there hadn't been anybody recording in there. And, I think John Mellencamp was the only person who'd recorded in there in 30 years.
Wow.
So one thing led to another, and we wound up getting Johnny Johnson, who's the Johnny in Chuck Berry's band from Johnny Be Good. He came up from St. Louis, and Coco Taylor, Wang Dang Doodle Coco Taylor.
Yeah. I've seen her.
She'd been under the weather, but when she found out we were doing it, and that Marie Dixon said, that we were cool, she showed up, and so both those artists came over and performed on these two tracks we did there, and that was just another magical thing.
Was that wasn't one of them like Blue Collar Man redone?
One of them is like a swampy version of Blue Collar Man, and the other one is a song that we wrote for Johnny called Hey Mr. Johnson.
You've had a bluesy year, Tommy.
Well, I'm from Alabama, and I played all kinds of music, soul music, blues music, everything there was to play down there. And, J.Y. grew up in the city that was the home of the blues. And it was something that we didn't really realize we all had in common, because all we've done since I've been to Styx is we played Styx music.
Yeah. Right before Styx, though, you were in a band. Getting back to how, I've understood that you did dig like funk and soul and blues. You were in a band called Ms. Funk or something.
MS Funk.
MS Funk.
Short for Muscle Shoals.
Muscle Shoals Funk.
Yeah, and the biggest, our big closer, which was like our renegade in Styx, was "Thrill Is Gone" by B.B. King.
Nice.
So. Yeah, it kind of brought all those little ends together, and the band hasn't been the same since we did it.
I can tell you got a little glow to you, and I would too. It's been reading these stories on the air too has been remarkable too, because you feel like you get to share in all the great stuff that Styx have had go on in 2004. And I just had Journey came through town a little ways back, and I spent a bunch of time with Neil. And I see that, unless I'm mistaken here, that you and the Journey dudes and REO have a little adventure planned for later this year.
Oh, yeah.
I was giving Neil I was messing with him about what is it called? The Rock and Roll Holiday Escape Cruise?
I don't know what they're calling it, but it's something that Clear Channel is experimenting with. I don't know if they'll ever do it again, but they're doing this classic rock cruise, where it's 3 bands in 3 different ports, and you get on in Miami, and I think one band plays. I don't know if they play in Miami or we might be the first band to play. We're playing in Cozumel.
Oh, nice.
Right.
On the boat or on land?
On the boat. There's a big. I mean, you have these.
Yeah, it's a big ship.
These things, but it sounds like it's like a theater in there. And I've taken all our gear and play in there, and then they go on to the next place, and then I don't know if REO or Journey plays there, and then the third place.
So you're not staying on for 7 nights, are you? You guys just go, you do your thing, and you're done, basically, or?
Right. Well, we're gonna go early and have a kind of a reception with everybody, and we'll get to meet everybody on there and hang out and do a
meet and greets and stuff,
and a question and answer kind of thing, and then we play the set, and then after that the boat sails, and
and so does Styx. Off of the boat.
Get our stuff off the ship because we got other gigs to do.
Neil was pretty funny about it. Neil was like, "I'm on that thing and off of it in one day." I forget how he said it, but
well, and I think our bass player is going to stay on. I think at least one of the guys from REO is going to. They're doing it.
They're doing the whole thing.
They're doing the whole thing because I think there's golf courses along the way.
Yeah.
And you know how these golfing rock guys.
They go together.
Yeah.
You're not much of a golfer?
I've never. I played one time, and I did so much damage to the grass.
To the greens?
Yeah, it looks a lot easier than it is. One of these days, maybe, just not yet.
And it's the great Tommy Shaw from Styx talking to me here. Just a couple more questions, Tommy. What's next for new studio material for Styx?
Well, we've started working on material out on the road, and we're starting to book time with each other for woodshedding and that sort of thing. But we're just kind of testing the waters and seeing if there's interest out there for a new album from Styx,
which would follow up Cyclorama, which was early 2003.
Right.
And the plans for releasing the I Am the Walrus. I had been talking to Terry Gibson, and he was telling me, who works on your staff, and he was saying something that you guys were working on getting that available for commercial release, like in terms of the public being able to buy it.
Right. I think first of all, it's going to be available on iTunes in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
That they're just finalizing that deal. This all sort of came as a surprise to us, so we're having to make this thing happen now.
Sure.
Normally you have months to prepare all this stuff, but we're putting everything on the fast track because it just busted out on its own, and it's a wonderful problem to have. It really took us all by surprise. It started out with the guy who said, give me a copy of it and I'll play it on my station, and now we're going to print up 1,000 of them for other radio stations. It's wonderful. I can't believe it. There's been so many years since that radio became so corporate, and so they changed the laws so one person can own so many radio stations, and it changed the whole idea of promoting your records. It used to be if they wouldn't play it at one station, you'd go down the street to the competition, and maybe they'd play it.
Right.
But now, one guy owns all those stations, and if they don't play it on one, they're not going to play it on any of them. And I don't know how people get records played anymore, but for classic rock bands, you're kind of stuck because the guys who program the stations, they say, we won't play a new song from a classic rock band. So fans wind up thinking that you don't record new music.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah, but it's the one thing about that's never changed about radio is that it never stops changing.
Sure.
And with what's going on with the satellite radio, I think it's given a lot of talented radio personalities who have had the decision-making ability taken away from them. I think they're starting to feel a little hope again because there's so much freedom at satellite radio that FM radio is going to have to become innovative again, or they're going to go the way of AM radio.
And we've certainly noticed at our station here at KPOI 105.9, the Big Kahuna in Honolulu, we take a lot of chances with current classics from artists, and that's how we basically...
When I hear about that, it's just like, yahoo! They can't believe that somebody is willing to do that now.
Yeah, well, we do it hardcore with the Heart, the Mellencamp, yourselves, whatever the situation is. So,
yeah. And because fans out there who go to concerts, they know that bands have new records, And when guys who are in offices, and if you don't get out, if you're just doing this as a business and don't ever get out in the field and see what people are doing, you don't know whether bands you don't know whether they're any good or not. You don't know whether their new records are any good or not. So, yeah, and it's all understandable, but sometimes it puts everybody out of sync with each other. It puts the radio stations out of sync with the fans out of sync with the bands. And, rock and roll is one of those things, especially for people from our era. It's in our blood. It's part of our story. It's part of our life experience. And no matter what happens at radio, nothing changes that. When you hear one of those songs that you heard when you were that meant something to you when you were growing up, all bets are off. It still evokes that same feeling from you.
The nostalgia it's a valuable feeling. I know what you're talking about. It's like hitting a bullseye or something internally.
Yeah, and if you can go hear that band and that band is doing a great job of playing it, it's like, wow.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. It's difficult, and it's cool that you very eloquently explained the artist side of the scenario, and also just on behalf of the stations, it's a battle of familiarity that they're facing in order to just stay in business. So and a lot of the times it's not so much that they don't want to give a chance to the new songs. It's just that what is keeping them in business is in fact the familiarity of the old ones, and if they don't maintain a massive wall of familiarity, cracks begin to appear, and then soon there isn't really any, the station then isn't there at all. So it's
I know, and well, it used to be where stations were privately owned, and their bookkeeping might not have been as tightly done, so we like doing this, so we're not making as much money, but we like doing this.
Yeah. It was when you got into it, exactly. I mean, stations were, and it was still an underground thing. The potential of the revenue, that's really what we're doing. It comes down to that, I think,
exactly.
Tommy. I mean,
if things start to slip a little percentage point, it's just like if you were General Motors, or if you were producing, envelopes.
Right.
You look, the guys who are counting and doing the accounting on that don't know the difference.
Right. It's just less dough.
And it's not just us in the music business. I think it's like that everywhere. The ruthlessness of corporate accounting and all that stuff, it's really infiltrated everybody's lives. And I don't know how old you are, but I remember when things were more organic and it wasn't like that, and maybe people weren't making as much money, and maybe it'll never be that way again. But I'm glad that I lived during a time where I guess I'm a old hippie at heart. And I'm really glad that I lived and appreciated those times when it wasn't like that.
It was I think of the evolution. It was not as much of a business as you probably remember when you were really young. It was AM that made all the money, and FM was like this experimental thing that the owners of the stations were just goofing around with.
Right. Well, Jim Ladd in Los Angeles.
I know Jim.
One of the pioneers of FM, that experimental radio, freeform radio.
Yeah.
The irony is he's back on the air in Los Angeles, and he has the #1 show at his station.
At KLOS.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a monster. He's very talented dude.
There's certain things that are just that are wonderful the way they are, and they're not really dated by any kind of a time or an era. The way good storytelling musically is as valid now as it was then, and it will be in the future.
It's timeless, like many of the Styx classics that have etched their way into people's minds and lives, the very fabric of people's growing up from being kids into adulthood and beyond. So I'm right there with you. And what were you going to say? Well,
I believe it or not, I was getting this tattoo of my work done yesterday over out in the valley at this place. And I don't know if you've been in tattoo places.
A little.
They're a real trip, and all different kind of people are coming in. And they were. It was a satellite radio program playing on in there, and it was because I don't have satellite radio yet, but it was like old school radio being played on there, playing these amazing tracks that you knew, but they weren't like the #1, but they were great album tracks and mixed with all It was like if you go over to somebody's house and you're just listening to a bunch of great music together.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and it was like, wow, I got to get that.
Yeah.
But and you can do that. You can play great music, And it's I don't want to get into this. It's too much of a debate, but it's some people say radio is having a hard time, and I know it's really. Do you want to listen to it? Did you just play something great that I want to hear?
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, I won't change the channel.
And that's really our attitude. We try very hard to push the envelope to be exactly what you've just described.
Yeah.
I certainly want you to come out here and actually be. I'd love it if you either came on vacation and got to spend some time in your rental car cruising with 105.9 on, or you came out and did a gig out here with us, because then you'd be able to experience the station. I bet you would dig what we were doing with classic rock out here.
Well, that's great. The one thing that's cool is classic rock wasn't just about number one hits.
Nope.
It was about those great album tracks.
Yep.
Where people played, stations would play 4 or 5 tracks deep into an album every time it came out. And you played those songs just as much as number one tracks got played. And that's why bands like Styx and Journey still have careers now, because a lot of our biggest songs were just mid-chart songs.
Right, and I know what you mean. And at the time, they were not monster. They were not even necessarily. Some of them were singles, in other cases, album tracks. But through decades, they've worked their way into being massive power songs that are played nonstop nearly every day. They're in that kind of demand. And I know what you mean.
And one of the things that helped us have a long career is that we didn't live and die by the single. Because when if you have a number one single and then your next single comes out and you only make it to number 3, that means that you're sliding.
Yeah.
Even most people would die to have a number 3 single. But so you kind of live and die quickly that way. But with album tracks, if you got to number 26 or number 12 or something like that, you could have a career on that.
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. I remember when there was an era when Renegade felt like a really, really deep cut for a while, and now that's like one of the absolute, most massive tunes in the format.
Oh, I know, and I know guys in the radio said that song constantly tests good with
through the roof,
males and females.
Through the roof.
Yeah.
And that was, for many years, considered one of those sort of a deeper kind of tune.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that well. So, yeah, you're right. That's a perfect example of the evolution of the songs. How much experience do you have with Hawaii, Tommy?
Not enough.
You guys have gigged here, right?
I've been there. I've been there several times over the years, but in fact, that's where my wife and I are saying next time we go somewhere, on a vacation, or it's not a gig.
What's your wife's name?
Jeannie,
cool. When's the next, when you think you guys are going to do another vacay?
I don't know. We just got back from the Virgin Islands because we played Puerto Rico.
You're living large.
Yeah, I know. It's hell being in Styx. Down to Cedar Island and St. John and St. Thomas.
Oh, St. John, man. That's hardcore.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own little place here. I would really love to have you come out, and we've got nice surroundings too here in Hawaii, Tommy. I think I speak for a huge portion of my listeners when I say that we would really like to see Styx do a gig on Oahu here in Honolulu.
We would love it.
And know that you got a radio station that is that would actively support a Styx gig out here. You would get the support. You've got a.
I'm going to tell our manager, because we would love to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to aim for the right venue, make it the right gig, But I believe that Styx could successfully do Honolulu, and there is a demand for you. So please know that you'd be welcome.
Well, I'll pass that along. And I've got a friend who goes there all the time, and he said the surfing's really good there.
Hey, you're having a little fun. You're doing the gig. Then you stop by. I have you on the show. We do a little guest DJ, and I'll let you throw down all kinds of wild stuff that you want. You can just take over my afternoon show.
That would be sweet.
It'll be Tommy's Picks, and you get all kinds of crazy stuff on. I appreciate it. Can I give a web address as we wrap this up so that fans who want to stay in touch with you online can reach out?
Styxworld.com.
Styxworld.com.
Right.
That's the best place to find you. Thanks again thanks to the great Tommy Shaw of Styx for being my guest, and Styxworld.com, where you can find more information about them online. And
more than you ever wanted to know.
Say again?
More music. Well, no, it's more than you ever wanted to know about Styx.
Their entire history and then some.
Yeah, there's a lot of I write a lot of stuff on there, and I'm the kind of the web guy that I put up all the pictures. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a pretty personal site. So you get a lot of pictures that our assistant tour manager travels with a camera all the time, and so a lot of the stuff is very inside.
Dig that. Almonds-esque. Almond Brothers do that with Kirk West, their assistant. And he takes like a billion pictures, and then they have it. It sounds like you're describing their site.
Yeah.
That's happening, man. StyxWorld.com. Good to know you're personally authoring that. And a great pleasure to have had Styx's Tommy Shaw.
Thanks, Dave. Nice talking to you.
I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure's all mine. Aloha, this is Tommy Shaw from Styx, and you're listening to the man, Dave Lawrence.
Aloha, this is Tommy Shaw from Styx, and your radio's tuned to a guy who's actually worth listening to, my buddy, Dave Lawrence. Aloha, Dave. Aloha, this is Tommy Shaw from Styx, and I know we're having a good time with Dave Lawrence and everything, but I feel like it's my duty to point out it's 420.